The Meet 2 by a company called OBSBOT is insane, and if you already know, love, and trust the Granite Geek, I'm gonna make this real simple. Buy this. You will not be disappointed. If you need a little convincing, that's what the rest of this video is going to be for. If you're looking for a webcam that can compete with some mirrorless cameras, I kid you not, this is the video you're gonna wanna see. So hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss as we cover all things tech. I'm Chris Grant Jr. It's the Granite Geek Show. Alright, so the Meet 2 by OBSBOT. Let's start off with the unboxing, and honestly, there's not much to say. I feel like a lot of companies are really nailing the unboxing experience. They're not spending so much money that you start to wonder, hey, if you spend a little bit more money, you could make the product better. But the unboxing experience in no way feels cheap. You get everything you need in here, including your manuals. You get the OBSBOT Meet 2 itself. You get a nice little handy stand, as well as a privacy cover that attaches magnetically. A little bit more about that later. But let's look at the device itself. This thing is puny, so tiny. There's my hand for like reference. There's the Apple logo of a MacBook for reference. I mean, here's even a shot of it with a camera lens. This thing is tiny, but I kid you not, the image quality that comes out of this is insane. In fact, I will be using this to replace a lot of mirrorless setups that I have around the studio for unboxings and talking head shots and things like that, just because the quality is good enough where I don't have to lug around an actual mirrorless or even cinema camera. Now that's a lot of high praise for a device like this, but of course the OBSBOT Meet 2 isn't perfect, but we'll talk about those things a little bit later. First up, the physical design and quality. You know what? In terms of construction quality, it's not metal, but it reminds me of, do you guys remember the iPhone 5C, the colored ones that were like, they were made of plastic, but they never felt cheap. They didn't feel like plastic. That's exactly what this reminds me of, and that's what it feels like. So very high quality. I'm not a super fan of the color. This is their Aura green. I would have preferred, you know, a gray or white, but you know, it adds a little pop of color to the desk. It has two microphones on the front as well as an LED indicator light for power. And then you got this nice lens in the front. Now this is not a zooming lens, but there's digital zoom that comes with the software. We'll dive into that a little bit later. But overall, physically, a very nice, very compact package that does not feel cheap. It feels like it could take a few drops. Of course, I'm not gonna test that out. But yeah, no complaints really here. All right, so let me put this on its tri-fold stand here, and then we'll take a look at a setup. Now you might think, oh, but Chris, this is a laptop. Why would you need a webcam for a laptop? The OBSBOT Meet 2 blows the water out of the MacBook Pro, any iteration webcam, and probably any laptop webcam, to be honest. Chris, you're crazy, you're a loon. Well, you'll have to wait and see. So actually, let's take it off the stand here, and it attaches magnetically. So let's plug it on into our USB-C cable and plug it into the laptop. All right, and right off the bat, when you plug this in, you're going to be able to see that it's compatible with all the macOS camera apps. It'll be recognized as a webcam, just like anything else. But goodness gracious, look at the quality coming out of this thing right off the jump. It's a little zoomed in, but I think that's because of the software. Now, of course, I'm no model, but you can just see the quality. Check this out. So when we jump over to the OBSBOT, look at that. Look at that. Now that is zoomed in, and if you didn't know this was a webcam, a lot of folks would mistake it for being a mirrorless setup, a much higher end setup that you would have for your conference calls and things like that. But the superpower of the Meet 2 is, in addition to its amazing image quality, the software. So they have a software called OBSBOT Center, and when you download that for Mac or for PC, it's going to give you incredible control over the camera itself. So I'm going to walk you through that, and then you can output that feed to various streaming platforms, whether that be YouTube, whether that be OBS, etc. So let's take a look at it now. It says the device is sleeping. Let's hit resume. It looks like this, very user-friendly. It almost looks like it belongs on an iPhone because it's super narrow. But from here, we can configure the camera to our liking before sending it out to a streaming platform. I'm gonna go to the top left here and click video preview. And when we do that, we see the entire widest angle of the camera itself, and we're able to manipulate that by clicking medium shot or narrow shot. Now the zooming ability of this camera is actually pretty good. You don't want to go insane. I think it goes up to 4x, pardon my face, but you can start to see like the quality break down a little bit, but that still looks really, really good. Or we can go super wide. But you can see the quality there for yourself. And we can also play with some more settings under the image tab here. We can toggle on and off HDR, and you could automatically see, I don't know how well it comes across in the screen recording, but the blacks got blacker and the highlights got even brighter, which is pretty cool. Adds a bit of contrast and certainly dynamic range to your image. We're gonna go ahead with the flat profile for now. You can actually turn on and off autofocus as well. So with the autofocus off, we're gonna have to manually focus using this slider, which you can do if you're looking for that. I don't know why you would, but if you're doing very controlled shots, I guess you could play with something like that. But of course, we're gonna use autofocus here. And there's settings for whether you want a global autofocus, like if you're doing reviews of things, or if you just wanted to focus on faces. So if I were to put this device, this camera lens right in front, it would focus on that, and then it would focus back on my face. So the global autofocus is really nice for that. You can control general camera settings here, like your auto exposure and compensation, your white balance, anti-flicker. You can also control contrast, saturation, sharpness, and hue, all within this app, and that's just the image tab. When you go to more, you can have some of the settings for the device running itself toggled on and off. So sleep timer, as well as your sleep background for the camera. Typically I just leave that black, but you can have it show something else on the camera feed, like camera is sleeping, or you can even add an image like your company logo, which is really neat. I think that's pretty cool. There's also gesture controls with this camera. Now, I'm not a huge fan of gesture controls, typically because I don't think gesture controls from anybody are so good that I would use them in a professional setting where, you know, if you accidentally did a gesture, it would recognize that it was accidental and not on purpose. And, you know, when you're doing interviews and things like that, some people talk with their hands and you don't want it getting tripped up. You can do auto framing, so let's go ahead and turn that on, and then we simply hold up our hand like that. So now you can see the camera is, I look so weird. The camera is following me around the frame, kind of like the iPad Pro or something would do. So it has features like that. That's actually pretty smooth, honestly. But we can go ahead and turn that off now. And the way you know that it recognized one of your gestures is the LED will actually blink purple for a moment. And that's how you know it has accepted your gesture. So let's turn that off, and we can also do zoom. Okay, now this one is a little weird, I gotta be honest. When you have zoom on, and you can control how much it zooms in or not, but you have to put up the loser sign in order for it to zoom in. And oh, it looks like it recognized my gesture twice. So like if I do it once, it should recognize that and zoom in. Okay, you do it and then you stop, and then you do it again. And it doesn't matter whether it's in the frame or outside of the frame, it'll recognize it. Where you can set things like the microphone status while the camera's asleep. You can have it either on or not. Noise reduction I have set to weak. It's weak by default. I haven't seen the need to change it. And then you have some just quality of life things like your mirror image, so you can flip the image itself. That actually looks kind of nice. Now the Meet 2 is going to be fantastic, of course, for landscape content, for YouTube, etc. But it's also great for vertical video. And here we have in the OBSBOT or OBSBOT Center app, you can change the orientation of the camera to vertical mode, and that allows you to, of course, create your Instagram Reels or TikTok videos, etc. I was also thoroughly impressed with the low light performance of the OBSBOT Meet 2 as well, and of course this is due to its half-inch CMOS sensor with a 1.8 aperture. You're getting really beautiful, usable certainly, images in very, very low light. Here I am in this clip playing with my key light, going to everything from absolute darkness to maxing out the brightness on the key light, and pretty much everything from 3% all the way to maxing it out is pretty usable. So what can be said overall about the OBSBOT Meet 2? Well, I really think the folks over at OBSBOT have knocked it out of the park with this thing. I mean, it's small and compact, the image quality is incredible, and it's got a ton of features, including autofocus and even gesture control. This is going to be an excellent addition to anybody's live streaming studio setup. The fact that you can tweak and control the parameters of this camera from the OBSBOT Center application and then send that feed basically to any streaming software is just so convenient. And the fact that, of course, it's going to level up your conference calls, work from home meetings, etc. So from the Granite Geek, the OBSBOT Meet 2 gets a 10 out of 10 would recommend. And of course, if you want to pick up one of these, I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can check it out. Of course, shout out to the folks over at OBSBOT for sending this over. And of course, like, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss as we cover all things tech. I'm Chris Grant Jr. It's the Granite Geek Show.